Hi everybody. So today I'm going to be presenting on a paper called Dancing Back to the Motherland. That's me. And I teach at the University of Cape Town. That's my paper. Okay. Yeah, because I wish academics, but yeah, I had to do that to get here. Get my university to support me to come here, so just shit, okay? But anyway, thank you, Andy, for that presentation. It kind of feeds in a little bit to what I have to say. Colonialism from the 16th through 19th century resulted in a transatlantic trade that involved trafficking millions of Africans from the west coast of Africa and across a huge river, the Atlantic Ocean, to work on plantations in the Caribbean. I am a woman of mixed heritage, part descendant of enslaved Africans, who was born and raised in Jamaica. In the Caribbean, African conscious ideologies such as Garveyism and Rastafarianism encouraged blacks in the diaspora to return to the ancestral lands of Africa. But why? To rightfully reclaim their true African identities and to play an active role in the upliftment of Africa and its citizens. Growing up in Jamaica, I was often critical, perhaps even skeptical and irritated by what, in my opinion, seemed like an escapist longing for Africa, a place from which we had long been absent. My discomfort with the Back to Africa movement would heighten during Black History Month celebrations in February, where an overdose of Back to Africa manifestos would encourage from our local cultural spaces. My skeptic inner voice would loudly scream, "What are we going back to Africa to do?" Then the serendipitous happened in 2012. Next slide. Next slide. I recrossed the Atlantic Ocean and relocated my family from Jamaica to South Africa. With my husband Kurt and my son Chad. To teach dance, specifically contemporary dance, Western dance history, and dance pedagogy at the University of Cape Town. Fully aware that my African ancestors journeyed across the Atlantic with their performances, social and cultural memory archived within their bodies and spirits, at the forefront of my return to Africa was how I would use the Caribbean dance and culture that I freely carried in my body and my memory. In this presentation, I will share my pedagogical experiences of teaching diaspora dances from the Caribbean within the academic program at the University of Cape Town for the past 10 years. I will commence, next slide, thank you. I will commence the presentation with a brief mention of my teaching context at the university, a description of the Caribbean dance form belly, and which I taught, and the teaching methodology that I explored with my second year students. The paper will culminate with the findings and discussions, meaning my students' responses to the Caribbean dances I taught them. And so I'm exploring this question of what happens when Caribbean dances, diasporic dances, return to Africa. So the background and context. The School of Dance at the University of Cape Town historically was a whites-only English classical ballet school that produced ballet dancers of really high standings, who performed with the prestigious Royal Ballet UK and other European establishments. Although South Africa is a multicultural society with rich and varied dance cultures, emerging from its diverse ethnic communities, during the horrid apartheid regime between 1948 and 1944, formal dance, 1994 I mean, formal dance curriculum was exclusive and elitist. Strict homage was paid to European classical ballet, its aesthetics, norms, and values, as the sole form of legitimate dance training in university education, while dances emerging from the belly of the nation were relegated to community spaces. The colonial machinery justified their exclusion with false denigrating narratives that these forms lacked technique, they lacked rigor, or systematic pedagogical structures. Transformation, however, came with the dawn of democracy. The university dance classroom became more culturally diverse, and my dance students racially identify as colored, whether mixed race, Africans and whites. African dance was now included in the curriculum, yay, at the School of Dance as a major area of study alongside classical ballet. South African dance students of all ethnicities were finally afforded the opportunity to study and experience African dance in their university education. And this is in Africa. Strange, right? Given the historical legacy of separating cultures and ethnic groups from one another, Critical to post-apartheid dance education in South Africa, therefore, was the need for embodied intercultural learning that would resist racist ideologies and injustices and promote understanding of self and others as important movement towards social cohesion and reconciliation. I, therefore, decided to be present, as Andy mentioned earlier, and insert myself into the curriculum and began to teach Caribbean dances as a module with their entangled and heterogeneous identities. So I selected a dance form called the Bele. We dress like that. But this dance is from Trinidad, actually. It's a creolized social dance formed from the crucible of colonial oppression. And banned from performing their African dances and playing drums during slavery, enslaved Africans in the Caribbean imitated and adapted the French contra dances of their masters, resulting in this intense interplay and contestation of several ethnic heritages inside the dancing body. Africanist aesthetics of live rhythmic drumming and singing, functional costuming, free spines and loose pelvis, above the shoulders, below the shoulders, were inserted into the French court-related practices of precise instrumentation, movement structures, intricate floor patterns, and upright and quiet body orientations. As such, in the ballet, both African and European aesthetics and cultural values encounter each other and collide to create what Trinidadian scholar Hazel Franco calls a fusion of the rhythm, form, and style of the African with the flair and coquetry of the French. The ballet is performed in the Caribbean today to honor and preserve the dances of the ancestors. It is a symbol of resilience, belonging, and citizenship in the new world that emerged from the mixing of diverse cultures and peoples centuries ago. So let's play that video of what the ballet looked like with my students, okay? You can play the video, thank you. Look if you can see the Africanist aesthetics in there, and if you see a bit of the European aesthetics as you watch the video. Ding, 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 rock! You gotta put the PowerPoint off here. That's a better song.
Oh, you need to close it.
Well, while we're there, we could learn the song. And it's a mixture of French and English. When it goes,
Click on the public.
I can't show you. Okay, so you can see some of the European aesthetics in that as we go across. What would you say that? How would you describe that movement?
Here we go.
But did you see this of the European? I mean, the dress comes from the Victorian long ball dresses that we had on the Caribbean plantation. The tying of the head replaced the wigs, you know, that the French had. And they made it open, the dresses, instead of closed, because it was symbolic of their desire to be free and open. So there's a lot of symbolism within the dance itself. But they definitely embodied that and made it their own. And so I brought this dance back to South Africa. Now, what was the methodology? My students first witnessed the videos of the dance, and they would engage in readings about the form and its functions. The pedagogical approach used with the ballet is one where the broader historical and social context of the ballet are covered prior to learning and performing the dance steps. Because it's important when we teach cultural dances to provide them with contextual understanding and meaning of the purpose and function of the dance. It's like when we're going to do the Mari thing, understand, what's the right name, sorry? Marai, yeah, for us to understand clearly why we're doing what we're doing and to understand so that we can honor the tradition in its current way, even as we reimagine and reinterpret for our own personal meanings. All the students learned the ballet songs, which were to establish a sense of community among the group. So I'm just going to quickly teach you the part of the song. I will play the role of the chanteur, which is the lead singer, and the students would take turns being the chorus of singers who respond to the call. So, Rob, can you just go back to slide before where the song is? Thank you. So it goes, dance the ballet, we go dance the ballet. Sing. Here we go. Dance the ballet, we go dance the ballet. Sing. The ballet, and we go, I, dance the ballet. I, dance the ballet. So this side you're gonna, the middle, you're gonna say dance the ballet, we go dance the ballet. You're gonna be the response, I, dance the ballet. Oh, here we go. Dance the ballet, the ballet. I, dance the ballet. Go. We go dance the ballet. I dance. Okay, we're gonna change it now. You're gonna sing the main one and you're gonna be a response, okay? Dance the ballet, we go dance the ballet. I dance the ballet. Dance the ballet, we go dance the ballet. I dance the ballet. And then it goes, dance the ballet, yo, dance the ballet, yo, dance the ballet, yo, dance the ballet, yo, dance the ballet, yo. Awesome, very happy yourself, well done. So the final set, the students would learn the song and the drumming as well. And we teach them the movement steps and patterns, they would perform and they would reflect on the learning experience in order to arrive at a fuller understanding of the levels of symbolic exchange within the dance. The final segments of my belly dance teaching sessions often constitute reflection by student journaling and improvisation. Improvisation tasks range from simple act of dance as being spontaneous with the belly skirts and creating their own geometric patterns while moving them in space, to the more complex task of interacting spontaneously with the drummer or creating their own belly song that expressed and activate. As the dance form was new for the students, opportunities to improvise were provided to allow for individual expressivity, style, and creativity within the form, ultimately shaping new understanding and personal interpretations of the dance in its motherland context, which will now be discussed. So, what happens when Caribbean diasporic dances return to Africa? Well, the next slide, thank you. 3 themes emerge from the students' experiences. Within the context of a largely Eurocentric university experience, or rather dance experience, grounded in Western-oriented pedagogical practices, South African dance students' engagement with the Caribbean folk form ballet generated effective movements of remembering aspects of their culture that were separated by the colonial logic of education. So often they didn't sing and dance together. Well, I'll go in each of those themes. Communal rejoicing, reclamation of the communal joy. And 3, healing, greater connections with and affirmation of self and others, and an empowering clarity of Africa's contribution to modern dance beyond the African continent. So the first theme, remembering culture. You can go to the next slide, thank you. So that's my students enjoying and learning this song. And I'm just going to use some of their quotations from their journals as proof of the responses of the experience. Teaching the Creole songs and the musical rhythm of the belly reawakened dance's African indigenous knowledge systems and cultural practices, too often denied them in the pervasive Eurocentric model of dance teaching in South Africa. So in our school, the School of Music is separated from School of Dance. Even though they learn African dance, they don't learn the drumming patterns, they don't learn the rhythm, they don't learn the song. It's a divisive way of learning African dance rather than in an integrated, holistic way. In society, in the culture, those who are from African backgrounds and actually experience the holistic experience. But within, when those forms are brought into the higher education, it is chopped up like garlic and separated. But there's something that happens when we separate those pieces that are usually working together. The students don't get the full embodied experience. Yeah, and there are some researchers that say if you left them lopsided because the music and the dance go together in a, not just a physical, cognitive, but also a spiritual way. And so putting it back together was a part of what we did with the belly. And so for them, their experience, they celebrated this remembering. So not remembering as in memory, but remembering as putting back together the things that have been separated because of a Eurocentric way of teaching African dances. So one student said, it was a nice feeling to do the dance while singing because it connects you more with the people you're dancing with and whose culture you're dancing. Another one said, the singing, drumming, and dancing connected everything together. Combining dancing and singing is very different to what we normally do in class. And it was wholesome, fun, but it also required a lot of focus. Now, have you ever danced and sang together at the same time? Yeah? They need to come to these conferences, okay? Get some practice with that. Yeah, but not in our higher education spaces. Another one said, learning the actual song made the experience feel more real. The connection of dance and song is a clear relation to African dance tradition. Where there is dance, there is song, and I enjoyed it. So dancing back to the motherland with inventive Caribbean dances and performance philosophies like the belly expanded students' knowledge and understanding of Africa's contribution to the development of modern civilizations, such as the Caribbean. In revealing that Africa's creative imagination and innovation is global, extending far beyond the territorial limits of the colossal continent, dancing back to the motherland unsettled any epistemic claims that students held regarding the West as being the singular origin and reference point for modernity and civilization. Students experienced a heightened and felt sense of pride, agency, wholeness, and joy, with the potential power to define lingering and internalized colonial filters of shame, inferiority, fragmentation, and tendency, through which politically marginalized cultural bodies are often read and marked in higher education spaces. So the next thing that came up was joy, rejoicing. Next slide. Thank you. Many of us know that in dance there's this thing that if it doesn't hurt you, if it's not painful, then you're not doing it right. Okay? Joy was a recurring theme in students' engagement with Caribbean dances. They repeatedly expressed feelings of joy, enjoyment, and satisfaction arising from one, embodying the different gestures of beauty, grace, and playful rhythmic dynamism embedded in the belly. Two, they experienced joy from the novel experience of manipulating the skirts to create patterns. And three, they experienced joy through the social emphasis of the dance. One student mentioned the use of the skirt was most memorable for me because it's not every day that one uses a skirt to dance. That's why I think I need to come more to these Christian conferences, okay? It was a new experience for me. I found it interesting as well as challenging to constantly dance with a skirt. The skirt always moving created a celebratory environment. I felt happy, it was exciting and fresh. One other student further claimed that the belly rekindled the joy of dancing for her by challenging her to shift her attention away from representing the technique and toward experiencing the dance. She wrote, sometimes I struggle to let go because I'm usually very focused on the technical aspects of dance rather than the enjoyment of it. And this is why I've loved this experience because it reminded me about the fun part of dance, which is vital. In a society like South Africa, inundated with images of trauma and painful social histories, expanding ways to excavate expressions of joy in the academy through diaspora Africa encounters can provide or prove valuable to students' humanity and sense of well-being. Amplifying joy in the student spaces of the academy should not equate to less academic rigor or technique. Caribbean dance is like the very challenge such false dichotomies that limit and denigrate the potential and, as Andy said, the power of dance as a form of human expression. Healing. Final next slide. The interculturality of the belly dance experience brought about a heightened sense of relationality and co-belonging among the diverse group of students that was empowering, self-affirming, and cathartic for the dancers. I'm just going to racialize the students because I think it's important what their races are and what they say. A white student said it was refreshing and therapeutic to integrate, embrace, and validate Europe and Africa in one bodily kinesthetic experience, than as separate racialized entities. Another white student said, performing the belly made me feel proud and honored. For once in the African dance class, I felt like a woman who was 100% comfortable in my own skin. I also felt more connected to each and every dancer participating. A colored student said, I don't really know much about my heritage. I have just heard that I'm Irish, Black, Khoi, and San lineages, but I have lived life in the space of not knowing, that in-between space of being colored. The belly made me realize that there is a way of being in the world where I can acknowledge all my ancestors, all those identity spaces, and not feel conflicted to choose or be defined by what the one imposed on me. The blur has a vital energy and pride of its own. So in concluding, I assert that the act of, next slide, thank you. In concluding, I assert that the act of dancing back to the ancestral motherland, and more specifically South Africa, next slide, anyway, with creolized Caribbean folk dances, is a decolonial pedagogical tool.
Oh, who's doing so?
With the potential to what? Reawaken and remember aspects of African culture separated by the divisive logic of colonial education. 2, unlock and reclaim expressions of communal joy in higher education dance learning.
Next one.
Rob, the next slide.
Yep.
And 3, generate social healing through meaningful connections that heighten affirmation of self and others and create access and inclusion for diverse cultural bodies. While the findings may not be generalizable across all contexts and all case studies, and the findings may be different for different kinds of diaspora dances, what it tells us is that the findings seem to suggest that diaspora dance forms, like their global music counterparts, can break free from their national Caribbean borders, recross the large ocean of the Atlantic, and leave contemporary imprints on the souls and bodies of Africa, even as Africa simultaneously imbue them with new meanings and interpretations. Thank you.